Hello, Trombone Internet. This is Chris Van Hoff, assistant to the regional manager of the International Trombone Festival. We at the festival, of course, are huge fans of the pod, and we are really excited to invite you to attend this year's 2024 International Trombone Festival at TCU in Fort Worth, Texas. Dave Begnosh is our host. We have the world premiere of a brand new double concerto for trombone and piano with the Fort Worth Symphony. We have the American Brass Quintet. We have late night jazz featuring a Latin jam session. Like, everything is happening. All the cast will be there. It's the best hang in the world, and we hope to see you there. You can register for the festival still online at www.internationaltrombonefestival.com, and it's happening the last week of May. So go register. We'll see you in Texas.
Welcome to the Trombone Retreat, podcast of the Third Coast Trombone Retreat. Today on the podcast, we hang out with Texas A&M Kingsville professor Oscar Diaz. My name is Sebastian Vera, and I'm joined by Nick Schwartz. Happy Chris Mahana Kwanzaa, Nick.
'Tis a season to be tired, my chops hurt, da 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 da.
Yeah, it's like most people, hopefully everyone out there is gainfully employed during this time. It tends to be busier for us, which is great. Christmas concerts, which are great. People coming to concerts, which is great. But, you know, there's quite a bit of them.
Yeah, and, you know, the Nutcracker, as I'm very familiar with, it is my frenemy. It's very loud. It's like the same sort of playing the whole time. So, like, by the end of like a double day, I feel like my aperture is like 3 feet wide from playing so open all the time. And my chops feel like sandpaper.
Have you considered not playing so loud all the time? Like a savage?
I think that's what the kids call quitting.
Oh, it's like on and off, right?
It's a bass trombone.
There's only 2 ways of playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta turn the volume knobs down sometimes. Well, Merry Chris Mahana Kwanzaa to you, Nick, and thank you for everyone listening today. I hope everyone's having a great holiday season. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you
Mash
hit
it.
that in a
Mash
while.
it.
That's what the kids say, right, on the YouTubes. Mash that like button, that subscribe button. You can lightly tap it if you'd like. We'll accept it anyway. What else is going on? Well, we got cool stuff on Patreon this month. Another episode of Meet Your Maker coming out. I've hung out with Christian Griego, Alexis Smith, Peter Pickett from Pickett Mouthpieces, and just geeked out on equipment and things that we should all know that we don't know. And so that's been really fun. You can watch a video of this podcast on the Patreon as well. We also are happy to announce our Trombone Retreat. Our Third Coast Trombone Retreat is happening June 19th through 25th. Visit tromboneretreat.com. We have Joe Alessi and Jeremy Buckler as guest artists. Jeremy Buckler is the new second trombonist of the Baltimore Symphony. Joe Alessi is that guy who was on the poster in my wall growing up. Final deadline is March 20th. You can apply early for a discount by March 1st. tromboneretreat.com. Man, Oscar Diaz is one of the good humans, and I feel lucky to know him. And I'm just super glad that I got to really get to know him this summer. And you know, we got to really get into it a little bit, and he's kind of a rock star in the trombone professor world with what he's been able to do with his studio down in the very south of Texas, and he's grown this giant studio. He has this incredible sense of community there. It's just really inspiring. I think everyone who teaches will get a lot out of this episode.
He's also very good at the cookings, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, we could have just made the whole interview about that.
As we've heard with previous guests, unfortunately, Oscar had a personal hurdle to get through in his playing, and it's always inspiring, I think, for people who have had or currently have an injury, hear other people and how they get through such a tough time in their professional life.
We're the official podcast of trombone injuries.
Yeah.
Something ailing you? Give us a call. What you been in the Magic Hat and Horns box? What have you pulled out this week?
Well, as you might have gathered from the last intro, Houghton sent me a goodie box, and it had all sorts of things in it. And
well, they sent it to us, but it didn't quite get there in time, so you get to play with all the fun stuff, and I get to just be jealous.
That's true. One thing in the box was a set of valve oil, like 5 different bottles, I believe it is, for, different parts, the linkages and inside the valve. Not in and of itself an exciting thing, but a necessary thing. And I'll tell you what.
Speak for yourself.
Yesterday, my valves were slower than I am right now, and I needed to oil them puppies. And so I remembered first I reached for my bottle of Hetman's, and it was empty. And then I was like, oh, Houghton send me this new valve oil by Meinl-Schmidt. And it is the same numbering system. I threw that oil on my valves, and boy, they're purring now. So that box came to the rescue yesterday, because I would have had to play with some valves slower than Kentucky molasses. And now they're faster than the General Lee.
This is world-class advertising. Yeah, honestly, I've heard this new oil is like amazing. I would like to try it. It's from this company that's been making valves since like the 1800s in Germany. So they kind of have some knowledge there, and they started to really get into the valve oil game, and that's the exclusive valve oil that Houghton is having now. So I recommend everyone give it a whirl. HoughtonHorns.com, first class brass.
Enjoy this episode with Oscar Diaz.
Man, it's so good to see you though, man. How's the semester starting for you?
It's actually been really shitty.
Yeah?
Really?
I mean, not like we had issues with the studio, not to get like really dark and deep to start this thing, but it has been it's been interesting because, not interesting. It's kind of tragic actually. Like the first, I want to say probably about a month and a half ago, I had a former student take her own life. And she was with us for a semester, but she was married to one of our students now that's there.
Oh my God.
And so it messed with some of the studio, and all the studio. And so I had to like put things back together again. And then I had another student that had to go to almost the same type of thing, kind of rehab, and so then I had to put that. This was recently, and now he's just coming back. So it's been kind of like this, this, and the studio's playing fine, they're doing fine, everything's, but it's just mentally they were gone, and so I had to be like this stoic, just like this. Okay, let's do this, let's do that. I'm sympathetic and seeing what they need, and then now they're okay, but we gotta get back to business little by little. Let's do this. So it's been interesting. I've never dealt with this before. So, but this past week has been really good. Like everything has been on the up and up, and, students are starting to cope with things a little bit better. And so, but it's kind of been happening across the whole school. Like there's been a lot of mental health issues with students. So, but other than that, not too bad.
Well, so you're just being a source of stability right now.
Kind of. That's kind of how I see it. That's, when you have 44 students, that's, and I have an adjunct that helps, but I feel like I'm the head guy, and I have to make sure that everyone still does what they're supposed to do, and I also have to take care of them too, because. Some faculty want excuses, and they want all. If you were at the funeral, I need an excuse. I'm like, really?
Wow.
I was there. Let me just. I was like, so I sent an email out. This is an excuse. These are all the students that went. Please excuse them. Period. So I also have to protect them too sometimes. And I see it because professors have gotten screwed over before. They have 8 dead grandmothers. you know, and
right.
they're trying to protect that too. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just so it was a little bit tough, you know, this semester, but like I said, now it's getting back into the swing of things, and it's a kind of a learning moment for the students too, how to, you know, not bottle things up and to talk to people, and to, if you're having problems, you know, communicate. I had a long talk with the studio was on Wednesday. Long talk, because they were just doing weird stuff. And so I separated the young ones from the old ones, ripped into the old ones, and I ripped into the young ones separately, because now it becomes like this bitch session shit show. And I didn't want that. I wanted communication. And then after that, so far, everything's just, you know, everything's starting to, you know. So,
because I imagine when
like
tragedy like this happens, it's like, it's something that you can make the group, it can be a resource like that, they can lean on each other and have this like family atmosphere. And it seems like that's something that's so special about what you've done. And of course we want to get into that, of just building this culture and this family atmosphere where, I mean, you could easily just stroll in and teach your lessons and leave, and it's like, okay, this is your hour, but you're there. You're like another parent almost.
I live there. I mean, and lately, I guess in the past, when I first started everything, I was 100 miles an hour. I mean, I was just like, okay, you know, when I got this job, I was like, finally, you know, I'm home. I have a job that's a teaching job, a good teaching job. You know, I'm playing in some orchestras, you know, and I'm having fun. This is awesome. This is what I wanted. And the main important thing is that's where I got my undergrad degree. So I wanted to really, you know, make a difference with some of these students, because I know where they came from. They all came from close to where I'm only an hour from here. I live an hour, I grew up an hour from Kingsville. I was actually born in Kingsville. People don't know that.
Wow.
Because my parents went to school here, and my mom taught, you know, in the area. And so I was born here. They lived in Kingsville. We lived in Kingsville for my first 6 months of life, I think is what my mom says. Right. So coming back home, that's not a bad gig, you know,
No.
And then having the students and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's been pretty fun doing that kind of stuff. But with having it here, it literally, you know, I wanted to start out the get-go, okay, what can we do to change some? And I'd gone to UT Austin for my doctorate, so I was like, all right, I want to do all this stuff for trombone choir. I want to hit all the students at once, because, you know, in a trombone studio, you have your really talented ones, you know, top 2 or 3 or something, and sometimes those are the ones that really kind of make a name for themselves, and, you know, but I want to hit all the students at once somehow, you know, and that was a thing, and also to create an environment for teaching and for students to thrive, you know, one another. I mean, you learn from your professor, but you also learn from who's sitting next to you. Like, how the hell did you do that? Oh, I just did this. How the hell did you do that? Oh, I just did this. I mean, you know, it's like,
how do you cultivate that with your students? Because that's something I talk about a lot with my own students, is like, you have me for 1 hour a week in our lessons, but you're around each other all the time. Like, you should play for each other. You should ask each other questions. Is it something you talk about with your students, or did it happen organically that they lean on each other for growth?
It's not necessarily, because you know how students are. If you tell them what to do, sometimes, most of the time, they're not going to do it. So I always try to use the word we. I never use the word I or you. I use the word we, because I try to make the studio, it's not professor driven, it's student driven. Like, okay, I'm going to tell you some things. Okay, we're going to do this. But like with them, like we have a lot of ensembles together, right? And they just want to, so I want to do a quartet. All right, number 1, do you like each other? Yeah, we like each other. Okay, great. I don't really care too much about the talent base right now. You got to like each other in a quartet. If you don't like each other, it's like, you know, it's gotta be, you know.
We were talking about that this morning.
Exactly. I was just going to say, we talked about it. Yeah.
Because they literally pick each other up. Like, okay, it's just, and I can get into that because one of the quartets had won the ITF competition 2 years ago, and I'll get into that later if you want. It was interesting, how I saw each one of them, boom, raise their game, because of, but so we're in ensembles together. So a lot of them meet on their own. We have octets. I have 2 top octets, and I have 1 full choir in 2 separate choirs. And then in there, they form quartets with each other. That's kind of, but they meet a lot on their own sometimes with the octets. And then I come in when they're getting the notes and rhythms. I always tell them, I'm not your band director. I'm not going to teach you notes and rhythms. That's your job. Mm-hmm. Okay. And like, okay. And then they'll call me in to go in when they're ready for the most part. Now, sometimes we're playing a really hard octet piece called Olympia. Oh, baby. That's the hardest octet. If you ever look at it, it's the hardest octet. It's by Daniel Snyder or Schneeder. Snyder or Schneeder? Schneeder. It's one of the hardest pieces ever. And they learned it without a conductor, but I'm going to go ahead and conduct it. It gives a little more stability, but it goes everywhere. And so I had to get in there and kind of help, solidify some things and help out and make them feel comfortable and all that. So, because, sometimes I do have to realize they are still students. You watch a college football team and you're like, what are you doing? Like, well, shoot, he's 19.
Yeah.
He's still a kid, it's like, things like that.
Yeah, imagine if your students were scrutinized by like the world, like every time they did something every week.
I know, it's just, what are you doing? I just lost money on that. But
I mean, I'm always fascinated by like when I hear you talk about your studio, because I mean, there's so many different types of university positions, and you're in a position where you've amassed this huge studio and this amazing trombone choir, and you're married, you have kids. I struggle with, how do you have the bandwidth mentally to be so present and open and there for so many people?
I don't know. I was talking to my wife this morning. My boys are very active. I want them to be active because the same stuff I'm telling my students, I mean, the ultimate teaching job is your kids. I mean, and when you get so involved in your job, you have to go back like, wait a minute, I got my kids. They need to, we need to instill these values into them. And so it's a hard, I don't know how to answer that question because I've always been like that since I was like little.
Come from a big family?
No, just me and my brother. That's it. Me and my brother and my parents. I always had supportive parents or whatever I did. My brother is an aerospace engineer. He's always going. He's like, I'm over here this week. And he has a little girl and he's expecting another little girl, and so, I don't know. I've always been like that. And I mean, I ain't going to lie. Sometimes you get pulled from about 1,000 different directions, and you're going through like, before I went through the focal dystonia chop thing, which we can chat about later. I was practicing, I burned both ends of the candle, get up early. I have my routine that I do, boom, go to school all the way to the end, finish. I leave right. The students know that I have to leave at a certain time to do stuff with the family. Then I come back sometimes for rehearsals, for coachings, things like that, and I don't get home till, on Thursday, I got home at 11 last night and my day started at home at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. between there, whenever I, and so, because I want to see the family off, I want them to, I send my boys a message every day, be kind, do this, don't be stupid, make good grades. I send them a voice message, or I send them a little text,
Don't swing at things outside the strike zone.
I like that. Whoa, never heard that one.
Well, that's not a metaphor. That's like a literal. His kids are little baseball stars.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
it's a metaphor too. Actually, I think
it's and that's another thing that I've actually learned a lot and actually applied. I apply both things back and forth. I've realized so many things are so intertwined. The skill set is just different. Same mentality, same attention to detail, same process. It's
I'm curious. Since you're so open with your students and you give so much of yourself And you've even told me, like in conversations we've had, if they want to rehearse, if they want to just keep going, sometimes you'll just keep hanging out and going as long as they want to go. But like, do you find that sometimes there's a line that you need to draw so that the line between like a student being like dependent on you versus like getting them to be, self-starters and do things on their own? Because obviously you're not going to be there forever.
No. I literally just said that to them. I was like, I'm not going to be here. I do not live with you. I will not live with you. I am not going to go with you to school. You have to be self-sufficient. You have to be able to do these things without me. I can't, and they know that. And they're usually pretty good about it. Like I'll leave and they'll stay doing stuff. You know what I mean? And that's
the dream.
That's something. And little by little, I had this thing where when they're freshmen, to be bluntly, I have my foot up their butt. Like, I'm like, okay. And then once I start, then I gently take it out. It's like, I'm very like this. And then I rely on the leaders, the upperclassmen. That's why we had a little conversation, because they weren't quite doing what I wanted. I go, look, you have to lead by example. I'm not in every ensemble. I'm not in marching band. I'm not in orchestra. I'm not in these. I don't care that you can play your part. Don't act like a jackass. That kind of thing. It's part of, this is just a little tiny bit. Let's say you win an orchestra job and you're an asshole. You ain't going to have that job very longer.
Nope.
Not much longer.
Because guess what? There were other people who showed up to the audition who played almost as well as you and are nice people. If not the same as you. So like, you're not unique. I'm sorry. Like, there's others of you out there that can do the job, and they're not going to be mean. Especially now. Yeah.
Especially now, And same thing goes for teaching. Holding them accountable. I mean, I have I have a freshman fundamentals class that I meet specifically to make sure, because I don't teach everybody. But I do teach everybody, but I don't officially. On paper I don't, off paper I do. Right? And so I watch their freshmen, but not just that, holding them accountable, making sure they understand what we need, and what I think they need. I always tell them, I'm not here for your entertainment. I'm here to help you go to the next level. Because most of my students are going to be band directors or music educators, and they're going to be burning the candle on both ends too. They're going to get there at 6 a.m. and go to a football game and wait for that last kid to leave at 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. So they have to understand that work ethic, that type of dedication to what they're going to do. And they're going to know real quickly if that life is for them or not. And that's what I'm also trying to do, is to help them understand that, okay, there's a process, and I like to watch a lot of TED Talks and watch and listen, and I like to learn every day about something, teaching, pedagogically, playing, getting the mind right. And one of the things I told them, I was like, you have 5 choices in life. And this is a big Nick Saban quote. You got 5 choices. You're going to be bad at something. You're going to be mediocre at something. You're going to be good at something. You're going to be excellent, or you're going to be superb or the elite. In order to be excellent or elite, you have to sacrifice, you have to work, you have to do so many things to be special. And if that's what you want to do, a lot of you are good. You're good, but you're not that level, and that if you want to perform or if you want to teach at a high level, you have to be excellent or you have to be elite, and that's so a lot. Some are on board and some are not.
There's something you said about, kind of setting a tone with your students from the beginning. Because I think a lot of mindsets, and a lot of times we don't plan this out, but we tend to, kind of ease in our first year students. And then towards the end, maybe if they're with you 4 years, that's when you start to really get serious, really be disciplined with them, really raise the expectations. And I've heard a lot of arguments that sometimes it's hard to just turn that on if you've kind of not set the tone from the beginning. So do you think it's really important to kind of set that tone from the beginning of like, these are the expectations, and it kind of just gets them started?
Well, the first thing that I do is that I have a little presentation like that I give them kind of, but I show them what they can do if they work hard the very beginning. And I think that motivates them and gets them excited. I have this wonderful video that I show them. I call it the trio, and it has Eden Garza as a freshman, which y'all know, who he is. He's
new bass trombonist of the Seattle Symphony.
Yeah, he's awesome. Great player. My former adjunct, George Rodriguez, and then another former student named is JJ Padilla. Right? Those three guys, they got here at the same time as freshmen. They would go they would go to the music building really late at night and just play through trios, and they would they sounded a little cringy. Right. And I have a video, and it's a little, and I show it in presentations on the things that they can do. And I think it's the Handel Trio. The Handel Trio. They're recording a little snippet, and it's cringy. And then I have another video of them playing Fountains of Rome for the Indianapolis Low Brass, and they played really well. And then I have them being featured at TMEA in San Antonio with the band playing the third movement of the Concerto for Three Trombones by Bourgeois. And they play the crap out of it. So I'm showing these freshmen, this is you now. This can be you later if you do what you're supposed to do. Work hard. And one's a band director, and these are three different professions. One's a band director, one's my adjunct, and now one plays in the symphony. Those are three different things. Right? The expectations are still there. Just because you're an ed major doesn't mean I'm going to be like, well, you can sound okay. No, you're going to instill that crap into your students, and that's not what we want,
Talking about music education first, I've had students come to me and also like, I teach at schools where you can't get a music education degree, but they'll talk to me about like where they want to go, like for maybe their undergrad if they're in high school, or go for grad school, and they'll say, well, I want to be a performer, but if it doesn't work out, I'll just do education. And I'm like, nope, you have to choose. Mm-hmm. If you want to be education, you have to be as dedicated as the person who wants to be a performer in that profession. Mm-hmm. And there's this quote, I looked it up by Zoltan Kodály, who's a very famous composer, but also
I believe it's Kodály.
Kodály, of course.
Like Wagner.
Yeah, Wagner, yeah. But they don't know he's was very passionate about music education. Started a whole institute that runs to this day. But he has this quote that says, "It is far more important who the elementary music teacher is in a small town than who the director of an opera house is, because if the opera house director is not good, he will be dismissed in a year. But a poor music teacher in a small town can kill off the love of music for 30 years from 30 classes of children. This is an enormous responsibility." I love that quote. Man, and it really resonates with me.
So check this out. I literally gave my students a speech about this, but it was in a different context. It was about a football coach. It's crazy. Like, my son plays football, or he played football. He's a good little football player. But the coach, it was interesting with this coach. He, and I hate to throw people under the bus, but I use them as examples because that whole team, the team was a lot of first years, right? And some were like had won the Super Bowl 2 years before the Super Bowl, right? And loved it. And no one liked the coach. He didn't do, I don't think he did it on purpose. I just think he didn't know how to do it. Like to be able to express what to do, how to teach, how to do all these things, and he made everyone dislike football. Almost most everyone, and they wanted the season to end, and so it's proof that one person can destroy something, and I had a long conversation with my son about don't hate the sport because of the person leading it. That's not what you want, and we are very influential in what we do as educators. We can really break somebody, or we can really bring them up and make them love something that we love. And it becomes part of our blood. It's part of our what we do, you know? And I told him that. I told you have the power to do that. One person can do that. And that's so, and if you're not doing it well, it's going to ruin a lot of things. Our future for music education.
Yeah, which is in trouble, as we all know.
Yep.
Yeah, when I started trombone, I was in El Paso, and I had the best music director. He got me so interested in trombone. And then I moved to Michigan, and my middle school band director there was horrible. She was so mean, and she was demeaning. And
what was her name?
Mrs. Pop.
I didn't think you'd actually say it. Jeez.
What is she? I don't think she listens to this podcast.
She's gonna find you.
If she does, she should know she almost made me quit music because she was just demeaning, and she was checked out. You know, she wasn't in it. She just came in, punched in. You know, all right, I guess I have to do this. I'm 2 years from retirement, whatever. And it's like everyone hated it, and I stopped practicing as much. And then I went to high school, and luckily had an amazing band director who got me back into it in even more. So yeah, I mean, I lived that example of what you're telling your students, and I'm glad you're doing it.
Yep. I call that paycheck band directors.
Yep. Yep.
It's interesting how similar and how closely tied these two majors are, right? Performance and education. And often people think it's one or the other, but they're so different. And the skill sets involved and the type of hours and the type of job that's required. It's like, it might be better to like go do a totally different path than just assume like, oh, if performance doesn't work, I'll do education. They can be so different. And you started as a band director, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. So let me backtrack, but yes, I did. So when I started this field, I wanted to be a band director. That's what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to be a band director. I had good band directors, very good band directors. I came from a very small town. And
what town was that again?
Ingleside, Texas. It's close to Corpus Christi. It's at the time I was maybe population 5,000, something like that. Not very big. Now it's grown a little bit, but still. But very good teachers. I love music. I collected records rather than Legos and toys and stuff. I had, all these things,
What were you listening to?
Casey and the Sunshine Band. Things like that. I mean, I listen to everything. I'm like ADD music. If you ever come to Texas and I barbecue, you're going to hear my ADD playlist from Mexican music all the way to trombone concerto will pop in, or like it just goes back and forth. I have a workout list of like fourth movements of symphonies sometimes. I mean, so
you should call that playlist Brass Forward.
Brass forward.
Yeah.
Just all the loud stuff at the end of every symphony.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Unless you did the last movement of Tchaikovsky's 6, that's not really a workout tune.
or what is it? What is the one? Which is the Dvorak symphony where the last movement should be the second movement and the second movement should be the last movement? I can't remember which one it is. 8?
No, 8 is pretty upbeat.
I can't remember. I don't remember. Shoot. But yeah, I did that. So growing up, and so I wanted to be a band director. And the first classical record I ever heard was my father's high school band. My father grew up in Mexico, but he went to high school in Laredo, which is like he kind of went back and forth. The house was in Mexico, but he went to school in Laredo.
But he lived in Nuevo Laredo?
He lived in Nuevo Laredo. And so my grandparents did have a small house in Laredo, but he would go back and forth. And sometimes he'd carry his sousaphone back and forth. You'd believe that crap. Walking across the bridge with a sousaphone. Can you imagine the checkpoint? What was that? Well, they knew because of banda music. So, but anyway, so I listened to it. And it was a good band. It was a very, very good band. That's when I first started listening. The first thing I ever heard was Overture to Candide, the Overture. And I was like, oh, cool. And then that got me curious. And then I started listening to jazz. And then started listening to all these things. And so then I started just to listen to everything. I listened to lots of Mozart, which is weird. I mean, as a kid. I know it sounds really crappy, but as a little kid, I was maybe 10 or 11, listening to stuff like that, listening to Mozart, Beethoven. And I did. It's like, it's like, oh man, Mozart's cool, man. You got to hear this. And they're like, what? People didn't know. And so, once I finally started getting into that, I wanted to be a band director. That was it. So went through high school, did the high school marching band and state thing, the fun stuff, right?
Marching band in South Texas could not be easy. Some of the heat for some of those rehearsals.
Yeah, but at our school, since it was a smaller school, it wasn't as hardcore. Like it was, and we got our first divisions, and that was it. That was our band director. He loved concert season. But nowadays, it's a whole nother ballgame. I mean, if you've seen recent marching shows, it is, and you compare it to ones from the 90s and early 2000s, it's pretty insane, the stuff that they're doing now, all the additions. But so it wasn't as hardcore as some people would think. So I go on, get to college. I come to Kingsville, and I'm like, all right, I want to be band director. And then I tacked on education and performance degree. I added that later because my trombone professor goes, I think you'd be a good trombone professor. I'm like, what? No way. That's for smart people. That ain't me. I just want to teach, and that's my mentality. Thinking, no, that's like, dude, y'all are smart. No, and so. He's like, no, I think you would be good at this. I'm like, well, let's see, right? And then that's when I added the performance degree, which you don't really need to add, but I said, screw it. It was motivation for me. I have to find intrinsic ways to motivate myself. I try not to rely on people to do that. Like when I was younger, I wanted to do it myself because I knew later on, no one's going to do it for you. So, anyway, so I went on, boom, 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 moved. And then I got my master's in Northern Colorado in Greeley, and then I became a band director. But during that whole time I was gigging like a performance. I was gigging every genre of music. I picked up bass trombone when I started teaching band. I had never had a bass trombone lesson in my life. A chair opened up in the Corpus Symphony. I asked my buddy, he gave me a Holton, one of them old Holtons. And I worked up on the Holton. The tuning was awful, but I learned bass trombone, I guess, wrong on that horn, but it worked for the horn. Ended up winning the gig. And I had already played in a symphony. We didn't have an orchestra in Kingsville, so I'd never played an orchestra until my first professional gig. Yep. One of the people in the symphony got the flu right before, and I walked in, literally had one rehearsal, and then boom, performance. And I didn't even play bass. This was in undergrad. I played on my old silver Bach 42. I played on a bass trombone gig on a tenor horn. They were desperate, I guess. So that was my first taste of the orchestra, and then going into everything. And then that's when I was like, you know what? I want to be a trombone professor. I finished. But I thought, you know what? The only way I'm going to really learn, because my first job is not going to be teaching at this huge school, and the players are just going to play when you get there. I'm going to learn how to teach. That's when I said, I'm going to learn how to be a band director. I'm going to do that anyway because I want to learn how to do all these skills and learn how to fix embouchures and fix this and fix that. And the only way to do it is to do it, They're not going to teach you that. So I moved to Laredo, Texas. And that's where I taught there for 4 years. I taught 6th grade all the way up to high school, right? Taught all the low brass, and I taught some high brass. And I wrote on a Post-it note, 4 years, no matter what. I had it. Boom. Because very easy to get, I'm not going to say complacent, but for me, complacent, because that's not what I wanted to do. But it's very easy to get, boom, band directors make a pretty good salary, we'll put the time in, but they make a pretty good salary. And so that's where I was at that time. I got married. My wife's a special education teacher, so she's able to basically go wherever I go and quickly because they're in need. And so, that's kind of how I did it. I was there for 4 years. I loved it. I learned a lot. I learned a lot. And then went to UT Austin. Boom. I remember my audition was alto, tenor, and bass. That was my audition. It's like, I'm only auditioning at one school. And I don't want to move out of Texas again. Please, God. So I was like, I pulled out all the stops, alto, tenor, and bass. And I just went, I remember my wife helping me carry the horns in. And I just boom, 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 knocked them down. And then that's when my collegiate kind of trombone way of thinking started to happen. I've had good teachers along the way, and that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of how I became like here, and every year I just learn and try to improve on the students. I always reflect on the year. What did they suck at? What were they good at? Well, how can we unsuck that, and how can we fix that,
So you went and studied with Donald Knob?
No, Nathaniel Brickens.
Oh, okay. So you must have just missed Knob, right?
Yeah, I got there. Well, no, I don't know. I got there when did I get there? Shoot, 2005 at UT, I think.
Of course, because you taught first, so there was that
gap. I taught first, so I had that 4 year, and I went to school for year and a half, my master. So and I went to school with Brian Heck.
Did you go to school with Owen Humayun too?
I did.
He was my roommate in San Francisco.
Oh yeah,
I love Owen.
Man.
He's a great guy.
He was. I mean, that was Martin was there. Martin McCain, Ray Morales, who's at A&M Corpus. I know Javier Stupart. He was in the group with us. Brian was there. I mean, it was a really nice studio. It was fun. I mean, it was we were winning stuff. It was nice. I mean, I learned a lot. That's when I learned. You learn. That's what I'm saying about the culture, man. You learn so much from these players that are, they have something you don't, and you're like, damn, what and that's where I learned a lot of things, So,
I mean, that might be one of the single most important things to success of a studio, right? It's not just like how good a teacher you are in individual lessons. It's like, if you can create this studio that just feeds off each other 24/7, it's like the equivalent of like passive income. It's just like always working.
Yeah, we used to have, I know this may not be the most ideal thing to do, but I mean, there were sometimes we do like these excerpt things. Every time we screwed up, we'd take like a swig of alcohol. We do it at somebody's house.
But that's a reward.
So we did that too. We did that too in school.
So whoever was playing first is kind of screwed. If they're, like all the, chipped on, damn it.
You start like missing on purpose. Like, oh, gotta drink again.
Oh, I was out of tune. Sorry. Sorry about that. So that was a long time ago. But anyways, it's those types of things. I mean, not necessarily the educational point, but just the camaraderie point, I always, lately this past semester has been kind of ugly. I haven't had time really to have a proper trombone hang here.
Man.
And
tell me about the normal hangs that you do.
Well, I usually have them when students, I can feel that they are feeling pressure, and I usually have one at the beginning and at the middle, and then we have a Christmas one. And we usually come to the house, we hang out. I mean, we eat, we're up late. I mean, it's a fun hang. It's a very fun hang, and everyone just talks to each other, and that's important. Communication and talking, and I don't know, just forgetting about everything and just relaxing, and because the world gets uglier sometimes. I mean, and you got to be ready for it.
It's so hard starting school, now more than ever, but being an 18-year-old, 19-year-old starting college, and the fact that you could come into like your studio, for example, and have like a community right off the bat and a set of friends, and that's invaluable.
It's good, and sometimes I'm not going to say it's bad, but they have to understand too that they have to be friends with everybody else. Because when you're a band director, a trombone player is not going to hire a band director. It's going to be a trumpet player, they have play nice, be genuine, that kind of thing. I try to instill it, and I have to live by it too. I mean, I try to live by those types of rules. I mean, I have two boys that are looking at me, and I have to make sure that it's weird because when my wife and we parent, we're good at two different things. She's good at the schoolwork, and I'm good at the other stuff. Because I tried to help my son with math during COVID. I was so pissed that they changed math on me. I was like, why did they just change math? What is this new math? It's like, wow.
I saw that stuff too. That's the way they teach it now is so crazy.
I understand why they do it, but oh my God. I was like, I got the answer really fast. And like, no, Dad, you have to show every single piece of thing. But it's a weird, it's like, I know why they do it. They're thinking of a process of getting there in a different. I get it, but it was just like, dude, just go chomp chomp.
Yeah, it's like show your work sort of thing. During the pandemic, I was helping my nephews with stuff, and they were like, "Okay, we have to do math now," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, elementary math, I can do this." And I'm sitting down, I'm like, "Do I know addition? I'm not sure I do now."
And you have your 11-year-old son like, "That's not right, Dad. You have the right answer, but that's not right." I'm like, "Really?" They're like, "Okay." And so finally, I kind of figured it out, and so.
So we've gotten this far in the interview, and we haven't. Speaking of the 5 elements and how you could be superb at something you're superb at is the grilling of meat, the smoking of meat. Some might say you're an artist, and you use it in ways to bring people together. Like what does food mean to you in your life and with your studio and your family?
Well, I don't know. I started realizing that when I was little. We used to have these big old, they call them carne asadas in Mexico, right? And these big barbecue, everybody got together. But I remember the food being okay. At the time, it was like, wow. But you get older, you're like, man, that shit was burned. And like, you start thinking back about stuff. Like, but it wasn't necessarily about the food. It was about everyone getting together and, lots of drinks. I remember back in the day with my family and music, lots of music. I mean, my grandfather was in this, like, he would always just grab the guitar with his drinking buddy and they just go at it. And I remember that as a little kid. I was 5 years old, 4. I still remember those things in my head, and so you kind of grow up with it. When he had passed away, we had hired they called him a trio, right? 3 guys playing, and it was the most perfect send off. It was beautiful. It was like, couldn't have put a better period, and so, but I don't know. I mean, I love cooking. I love it. It's actually a very therapeutic thing for me. I have a system. I go out into the garage. The music gets turned on. If I have a Friday night open, because I don't like to do it on Saturdays. I like to do it on a Friday sometimes. Sometimes I do it on Saturdays if it's an all-day smoke, that kind of thing. But I'm just grilling. If I get home a little early on Friday, there's a nearby place called Tapatio. You pick up a to-go margarita, and you go home. I have all my stuff. What am I going to cook today? There's a meat market that's really good by the house. So I pick up some fajitas, some short ribs, have some good spices that I have here. And I just kind of start preparing the meat. The music's on, drinking that margarita. Fire's going.
Around a little bit.
I call it my hat. I have like a straw cowboy hat that's too small to my head, but that knows. My wife comes home. She's like, "Oh, it's going to be that night." Okay.
Is it the hat we see behind you on the bed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's my hat.
We're going to get you to put it on at some point today.
Oh, fuck. No, but I got it at a baseball game with my kid, and those things are like one size fits all, and it doesn't work. But anyway, so it's just that gets me out, and then sometimes because it is quite expensive if I have students over. So yeah, meat's not cheap, So we always have like a typical menu that we do, when it's the whole studio, or when I have guest artists with we have a little appetizer, we have this, but I don't know. It's like, it's just about the whole act of getting together and enjoying food and liking what they do and what we, talking and eating, and it's just the camaraderie of enjoying each other, and that's basically what it is. It just happens that the food's pretty good.
A lot of trial and error for you.
Oh yeah, you're like, oh, I wouldn't serve that. And my wife, that's really good. It's like, not really. I mean, it's good enough, but I don't like good enough, So, like whenever we had that ITF hang, I brought my spices from home because I wasn't gonna just trust spices from Arkansas. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go searching for it. And thank God I found a little Mexican meat market that had the Mexican cheese that I had there. I found this one little Mexican meat market, and there it was. They had all
which cheese do you use?
The Oaxaca cheese.
Oaxaca,
It's a brand, like a Mexican mozzarella, you know. It's a little bit different. But that's what I was using for the pulled pork quesadillas. People were coming in. I was like, let's do that, you know. That's something I like. Also, like made to order cook. Okay, you want something? Go. That's something going to Mexico, going for street food. They're cooking that stuff right in front of you. You know that stuff is boom. It's right there. You're getting it. It's right in front of you. It's cooked. It's not like, you know, Taco Bell. They microwave that stuff. You know, it's boom right there. Perfect. You know, and I don't know. It's just the camaraderie part that I grew up with, bringing people together. It's fun. I mean, it's not going to be a bad time.
Would you say like food is definitely one of your love languages, like how you show love for people?
I think that's one of them, you know. And this is like a whole life thing I tell my students. The first presentation I ever give, when I give them this quote, I tell them there's this thing, and I call it GAS, and it's give a shit. If you don't give a shit, then it's not going to probably be very good, or you're not going to do that. That's in anything. It doesn't matter, you know. And so, you know, I care about the type of rub, you know, that I use. The injection. I care about the smoke temp. I care about the student's well-being. I care about this. Like, you know, that note doesn't sound right. Why does that note not sound right in sixth position, or fifth position? You know, things like that. I mean, you have to care about everything. People, the process, I don't know, the journey. I mean, it's like everything's so intertwined. I've been learning that as I get older. Everything is just so connected. And it doesn't have to be music related. It can be anything, like meat, you know, cooking. You know, indoor cook, I'm all right. You know, I can cook, but I don't enjoy it as much. You know, I enjoy the challenge too. I like cooking when it's super cold because the fire gets annoying.
When is it super cold where you live?
Never.
See,
there are those 1 or 2 days. So it's like 65 degrees outside. It's cold, man.
You got your full winter coat on.
Dude, yesterday at a football game, I was like, God dang, it's cold. And it was like 70. And I was like, oh, what the hell's wrong with me?
I mean, describe for people that don't know where Kingsville is, like how far south in Texas are you?
2 hours from the Mexican border, roughly.
So one of the most southern parts of the United States.
Yeah, we're not at the tip, but we're not like Brownsville or South Padre Island, which is right at the border. But we're about 2 hours north of that, roughly 2.5 hours, however you look at it. So that's where Kingsville is.
Oscar, you and I, you know, we've only crossed paths a couple of times, but the more I know about you, I know we got to hang out because, as Sebastian could tell you, I love to cook too. I do, obviously, because living in the city, I cook more inside. But when I go to Michigan in the summer, I have 2 smokers there. I do a lot of smoking, and I'm the same way. Like I think music. They say music is the international language, but I would say that food is too. You know, you can sit down with anyone and share a meal, and like you're going to have a good time.
And barbecue is, I don't know, but barbecue is one of those things where it'll make a vegetarian eat meat for that moment.
It's primal. It's like it goes back to like Neanderthal selves, you know.
They may not gorge themselves, but they will eat a little bit. And you know, they're not going to do that on a chicken cordon bleu or a beef Wellington or something. They're going to do it on a piece of brisket or some pulled pork or a bite of a rib or a big beef rib. That's another thing I love cooking is big beef rib. That's like brisket on a stick.
Yeah, all that collagen. It's so good.
And you know, the other thing I really started getting into is bone marrow. I love bone marrow. I put that on fajitas on a blue corn tortilla with some Oaxaca cheese and some green salsa. Bro, my
best friends growing up in El Paso were twins, Manny and Fernie Rivera, and they lived down the street, and their parents were both originally they were born in Mexico themselves, and their parents were, and their mom didn't really speak English or anything, but I would go over there and she would make me sit down and just like put food in front of me, you know? And one day it was bone marrow and I had never seen it. And she's like, here. And she takes out the bone marrow and spreads it on a tortilla. And I ate it, and I went home and I described this to my parents. I said, I had this thing, it's like a bone, and you scrape something out of it. And my dad was like, oh yeah, it's bone marrow. And I was like, bone? I've heard of that. And then it's like, Well, that's weird, but it also tasted good. I guess I like bone marrow.
Yeah.
Call that Texas butter.
Oh,
Yeah, baby. Oh, yeah.
Or French
Well-
butter. They eat out there too.
Another thing I do is like when we go, like when I take the students on a trip, we actually go to like food. I try to find food they've never had before, like things like that. So not barbecue, but like most of them had never gone to a hibachi grill. And so at Muncie, I found a hibachi grill, got some good, it was good. And we had hibachi and they were like, what is this? You know, they didn't know what this was.
In Seattle, we took Ethan to Vietnamese for the first time.
Oh,
it's awesome.
and it's good there.
It's good.
It's good in Seattle.
My sister-in-law is Vietnamese, so oh baby, it's good.
That's a
This stuff's
good
good.
combination.
It's very good, but yeah, it's just. I mean, bone marrow thing. So when the quartet had won the ITF thing, or they had performed really well, I was like, we're going to go to a good restaurant. There was a really good restaurant in Columbus, for Columbus State. I forgot what it was called, and I thought, oh, bone marrow, let's do bone marrow. And they're like, what is that? And they don't realize they've been eating it all their life. If they make beef caldo, beef soup, they throw the whole bone in there, and that marrow is what gives it the flavor. They don't realize that. But this time we're spreading it on bruschetta, you know, or whatever, you know, like the toast, you know, and they're like, you just spread it. Okay, on a cracker, yeah, a cracker, spread it, and we ended up ordering another one, you know, and it was just new to them, you know, that was new. It was an expensive meal, but it was worth it because they never experienced that type of cuisine, and we had a great time, you know, it was part of that.
Tell me about the makeup of, I mean, in general, historically, your students have typically come, I know you're starting to recruit nationally now, but like historically, mainly from South Texas. Mm-hmm. Was there a typical socioeconomic background you're typically getting students from?
Yeah, typically it's gotten a little different, but when I started, it was, I want to say like 90% were first generation college students.
Wow.
About 90. Now it's probably about 70, 65,
Still
70.
a massive amount. Wow.
Yeah. But I think every year, every couple of years, the percentage gets lower and lower, you know, because now, this is really weird, but now the students that I get, their dads and parents are my age. So, you know, so I was like, God dang it. Now I'm like their dad, not like their brother, you know?
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So in a way, but it's different, you know? And so I think with that, you know, younger generation, there's more people are getting college education, more degrees, things like that, you know? They understand the importance of school, you know?
Do you face particular challenges with students like that? Are there certain advantages of people that grew up that way? Or
yeah, they work their butts off. They understand the meaning of work. But then on the flip side, sometimes they're used to getting stuff too. They're used to getting aid. And there has to be a balance between some of that stuff. They have to understand that you do have to, and they do work, don't get me wrong, but they're so used to getting like things getting paid for all the time.
Interesting. When
they come to some of the lower income school districts that get a lot of money. So band trips and these things are fun. They don't have their own instruments. They're given their own trombones. They're giving especially bass trombones. I rarely have a bass trombone person that comes in with a bass trombone. They'll have their school instrument on loan for like the first couple of months until I get a horn or get a good deal on a bass or something. So,
because that's often a problem with young students, especially ones that don't have a ton of money. And we're lucky that trombone is one of the cheapest instruments, but still, you know, few $1,000s for a college student that may or may not have help from mom and dad, but they're also majoring in this and it's kind of a requirement. So like, how do you go about like encouraging them to get one or helping them find one?
Well, I when they audition, I basically talk to them, you're going to need a horn. You'll get a horn for marching band, but it's not the greatest instrument. And see, and that's where, I mean, the costs of trombones have gone up pretty well. I mean, they're pretty much. And also players change in time, you know, and I look at prices and I have connections at different places to help them out. And it just depends on the horn, you know, the Shire's Q series horns, right? So those horns came out. That is what a lot of my students play on because that's what they can afford. the horn's, it's a good horn for them. It works well. I don't have any issues with it, and it's on their price point. And if they want to ever upgrade, they can upgrade. They can buy a bell. They can do this. They can do all this other stuff, and I mean, I'm not trying to plug anything, but it's just from a financial standpoint, it works for them because some of the other instruments are expensive. Bachs are expensive. Getzens are expensive. I mean, it's like, especially bass trombone. I mean, anything with a Thayer valve is going to be expensive, and a lot of them want Thayers. I'm like, well, let's look at this. Let's look at this. Let's try this. I'm very open-minded about things. Try this, try that. Because they're not going to afford a custom horn. There's no way. Not yet, anyway. Eventually, then they morph into that. They morph into a custom horn if they're going to take it to the next level, get their masters, or sometimes, or they want to get it. They want to buy, or people sell used custom horns.
Is there a point sometimes where you have to kind of just push back and be like, when they're really resistant, you're like, I know this is a financial thing, but like it is a sacrifice. It's an investment in yourself kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's just so hard, right? To tell a student that's like, doesn't have like any money.
No. And
right.
It's hard for some. It was harder in the past. Now it's not so bad. They have money, but like I only have $2,500 to buy a tenor. That's all I have. I'm like, oh shit. Okay. Or 2,600, like this other kid, he's like, I only have 3,100 to get a bass. I'm like, oh. It's like, okay. So we look at the marketplace, and then we look at this, and then I ask, do we have this? So we try to help each other. And, I've in the past, I've had really nice dealers, that have been very, very helpful into finding instruments,
You like cook them some meat and
like do something,
do some exchange.
Dry ice them a brisket, just heat it up in the oven, But yeah, I mean there's like I said, there's so many great instruments nowadays that, it just depends. I don't know. It's weird. That's always a funny.
It's hard.
It's a different thing because you want them to sound good, but then they can't afford expensive stuff. I mean, they can't afford $5,000 or $6,000 on a horn. I mean, the tenors are now what, $5,500? I mean, I haven't bought a horn in a long time, but I'm looking at prices and they're expensive. The basses, oh my God, they've gone up to $7,500 or something on some basses, 600
or
6,000?
more if you're looking at
or more,
9.
depending. Oh, that's expensive, man, very expensive. But it's just, and I understand it's expensive. I mean, it's pricey. I get it. Things are going up. But I mean, for a student that's coming in, that doesn't have a lot of money, that's talented, it's tough, And so I try to help them as much. And sometimes this is actually really nice. Sometimes some let you do it in payments with no interest, and that works out really nice.
There you go.
That actually happened a lot with some of my students that have the Shires. That was for a little bit, And that really helped out the parents. They could give monthly. The parents were paying it off, and they were trying to get like a year no interest or something, And so that worked out. I think I forgot what dealer it was. One of the maybe Music and Arts or something. I mean, it's just they were helping me out. They were trying to help out the student, And that's the thing. You have to try to help out students as much as you can, and try to take that equation away so that they don't have to. Because it is stressful. Money is just a very stressful thing for some students. They don't have money for this. They don't have money for that. That's another reason why I have barbecues too, so they can eat. Barbecue's expensive somewhere else. And you go to Franklin's and you go drop by yourself, just by your eyes, like, oh my God, it's like $25 for half a pound of brisket or something, or maybe more. I don't even know what it is now. And I know how expensive because I know how much time you put into that. You put all day into that. Night, and it's physically grueling, and it's,
and we're well aware of what what freshman eating habits can be like,
dude.
The soda they're drinking and the Taco Bell every night, and it's like, guys, you're wondering why you're not sleeping well.
Eat that, and you wonder why you're, But I mean, it's just a part of a learning thing, and it's cheaper to eat crappy
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, it sucks, you know. And I mean, you can be frugal with stuff and actually be, you know, you can eat healthy, but it is still kind of expensive, you know, to do that.
So Oscar, I'd love to pivot to something you mentioned earlier. If you'd like to talk about it, and I really liked, from what I believe I heard, was when you used to have focal dystonia.
Well, it's still there, but it's still going. I guess I was thinking past, but it is still there, and I don't mind talking about it at all, you know, because I call this the double-edged sword in a way, but I also think it's a silver lining. And and it's, if you've never gone through something like this, it's probably one of the worst things ever.
Can you explain what exactly happened and what it felt like, what it is for people that don't know?
In a nutshell, your brain is, you're doing a lot of unnatural things when you're playing, and your brain finally says no, is what happens. And so it shuts off some things, and you have to retrain muscles in the way you breathe. And because when we play the instrument, we're supposed to do things as natural as possible. You know, this is for longevity purposes. You can get away with a lot of stuff, right? You can get away with doing things, and you can do things incorrectly and still sound good. But in the long run, it's going to get you, right? And I don't know exactly what caused it, but it just basically shut down. It was right after COVID. I was playing a bass trombone gig, easy music, and I could not start a note to save my life. It was just like a boom, then a play. It was just, I was like, what the hell? And I just had a trombone day. I was like, well, maybe my chops are just kind of not there. And then it kept happening, and then the world shut down the next day, so I had no gig, right? Came back, started playing, and I was like, what in the hell is going on? And I was like, maybe are my chops that bad? Like, what the heck? Then I went back, started going slow. Okay, low B flat. All right, I'm good. And then all of a sudden, all of it left. It just went. That's all it was. That's it. I was like, all right, not a problem. Listen to my brain, not a problem. I think I'm a good teacher. I can do this. I can coach myself. I got this. No, I'm having to do unnatural things to force a tone again, right? Which is wrong. And I didn't know. I started researching. I talked to Colin Williams about this. We went over it. You know, we were talking about barbecue and chops, you know, trying to get all this stuff going, you know, and he helped me out a lot, you know, and we just went through this stuff, and it wasn't exactly what he had, because he had, you know, he had an injury, you know, like it was an injury. Mine was not like that. It was more neurological in a way, which I'm pretty sure, you know, some of that is neurological too, but mine was just, that's how it was, because I don't feel pain or anything. And so I started getting like mad. Like I was super, like, I was just getting pissed, you know, because that's something that was stripped away in my mind. Like, what the hell did I do to deserve this? You know, it's like, you get into this little place where you're pissed. And I've never been pissed. You know, I was like, what in the hell? And
it's like stages of grief, right?
Kind of, you know? And so finally, I think what did it was my wife goes, you are becoming an asshole. And I was like, yep. And like, it was just, I sat there, I was like, yep, I am becoming an asshole. And I was like, shit, they don't deserve that. No one deserves that. And it was very brief. You know, it wasn't like this year of, you know, and I didn't hit, you know, I didn't, you know, go to booze or go on a crazy binge. I was just mentally, I was like, damn, if I'm being an asshole here, I bet you I'm being an asshole at work. And I never said anything, and no one ever told me anything. And then finally, I came to the mindset that I cannot do this by myself. You know, I was used to being go, me. Okay. So that's when I contacted Jan Kagaris, you know, and we started, but I had to be in that mindset to be accepting of something completely different of the way I thought. Because if I went in there thinking, I would already be like, no, that's not right. No, I mean, my brain, you have to be in a mindset to be able to allow people to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was tough for me. Because, I mean, I've had help along the way, you know, I mean, but it was tough that this is something that I started to doubt myself. Like, shit, I'm teaching my students how to play wrong. What the hell? And I wasn't. It was just, maybe I wasn't taking my own advice at the time. I don't know. You know, there's so many things that's a whole nother.
You question everything in that moment, I imagine.
You know? And so I was like, crap, you know, and so I'm sitting here with Jan and we're still going through things and I'm actually, you know, they're coming back. You know, I mean, they're coming back, you know, and it's still there. With me, I don't want to play until I'm about 90%. I don't want to play in front of people. I don't want to play in an orchestra, you know, my gigs. I don't want to play until I'm about 90%, if that. I want to be like, you know, because people know about it, and I don't want them to be listening like, oh, he's going to screw up. Like he's going to, I mean, they're not being mean about it, but in the back of your head, you're like, you know, maybe their heads are thinking that. And I don't want that, you know, and I don't want to also make the orchestra sound or the section sound bad. That's not what I want. You know, I play second trombone. That's the double meat, you know. You know, I mean, that's.
And I'm such a believer, and you know, talked about this many times on the podcast of how adversity can be sometimes the greatest gift, even though it's often terrible to go through. Mm-hmm. But in our conversations, we got to hang out for like 2 weeks straight this summer, which was awesome, teaching at ITF and teaching at the Festival of Trombones, and you were lighting up. Your mindset was so beautiful in a way, because it was just, you were lighting up by how much you were learning about teaching and approaches, and like you're just turning this into a positive.
I have to. I mean, I didn't mean for that to happen, but I was like, holy crap. Let me apply all this crap that I'm learning to students. Let me apply all of this stuff. And they have gotten better faster. And I see it in the freshmen and the younger, and I'm just tweaking. And it's not like they're doing things really incorrectly. I'm just trying to make sure that they understand the concept of playing their instruments. Because one of the big things that I learned about playing the horn is that it's science. It's physics. And, you know, physics and math are very absolute things. And you don't want to deviate too much from the science. Because if you do, that's when other elements get in and screw up something. You know? And that's what I've learned. And I've put that, you know, I mean, I with my son, what sucks the most is I can't play with my son because I don't want him to sound like me. Now, on some stuff I've been playing with him, I want him to sound like me. My low range is baller right now.
Can I have your confidence about my own low range?
Shoot. Like, and I actually started to demonstrate again with my students, but I use a P-bone. I know, it's stupid, but I use a P-bone because my goal is to make that P-bone resonate. Mm-hmm. Because you can make it resonate. It's just freaking hard because it's plastic. And so that's my thing. But I'm resonating on this B flat, and you have a horn that's not made of plastic, and you're not resonating. Why? And then we go into it. Make it resonate. You know, things like that. And so it's that kind of thing. But my thing is I want to play with my son. I want to play the etudes that he's, you know, and because he's a good player, and I want him. But my students too, I want to play duets with. I miss playing duets with them. I miss yelling at them. Really, you to do that? Okay, so, who's in tune? So you or me?
You mentioned how like your students are making the things you've learned, and your students are making even quicker progress. You're noticing, without going into like the deep details of working with Jan. Is there like a basic overarching centering thought that's clicked with you that's really resonated with your students?
Is you have to, we're not born to play the trombone. We're not born to play a musical instrument. We're born to breathe. We're born to suck air. We're born to blow. We're born to walk, run. You know what I mean? We're born to do these things, and we have to find a way to combine all these natural elements to do something, whether it's athletics or playing a musical instrument. And once you deviate from that natural part of your playing is when problems happen. And that's the thing. When you're having a playing problem, you have to go back and, I'm too tense. You know, one of the things that I catch myself, take a big breath. Well, not necessarily. If you take a big breath, you're already causing tension. And tension, well, we all know, is killer of sound, right? And so I've learned those things, you know, to be careful. You need to take the amount of air that you need, and eventually your body will adjust with stuff. You know, it's a more psychological approach, you know, and that's something that I never would have thought of. Maybe I've been taught that and I was just a dumbass back when I was little and just missed it, you know, which could be
most
possibility.
People are taught that.
Well, we're also taught somewhat of the opposite, which is the Arnold Jacobs approach, which is just hear the sound, play the sound, song and wind, which is good, but I think you need both. You need to understand what's going on, you know?
You have to understand the physics of the instrument, and I don't call it air anymore. I call it wind. I call it blowing wind. Always wind producing. There's a pump in your body that pumps it correctly. You have to use the right pump. A lot of students use their chest and they pump this way, and that's where you get the, you know, that kind of stuff. And embouchure too. Instead of worrying about the embouchure, I worry about the air column. You know, instead of, because you always, and this is getting into the nitty, but this is just something that, you know, you see a lot of students, you know, when they have this, right? I always this is how I warm up. This is my straw and a visualizer. So you see students are going to play and they do that. And you can't really create somewhat of a circle aperture by going, you know, and so by having them use different muscles to create an air column, you know, in pointing your face, they produce a way better sound. And the wind it's creating the best sound possible with being effortless, with less effort, you know. Now, I'm not like going nuts and like, you have to look like this, you know, that's stupid because we all look different. We all have bigger lips, smaller lips. We all have teeth but the essence of trying to be as natural as possible, focusing on the air column without telling them flat chin, firm. Once you start saying flat chin, firm corners, boom, you start to, you know, and then you're tense and you're forcing the buzz the wrong way. Your lips vibrate. You're trying to get the lips to vibrate without using the right amount of wind. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that I've learned in the past year, you know, and
it's like you don't want to introduce too many rules, or at least it's got to be the right rules. And
it was very humbling for me, you know, because I had all these students that play well and do all these things. So I'm just like, it questions what you did, you know, what you're doing. And now all I can do right now is just help, you know, try to help them do what they're, you know, help them not, just help them have longevity in their playing if they're going to play with students, or if they're going to play with whatever their job, whatever they want. I mean, I'm trying to help them get there, but I miss playing with them and showing them certain things, you know, so.
It sounds like
thank God I can teach
Oscar.
It's getting there. It is getting there. It is, you know, and I'm better than what I was since the last time I hung out, you know, with you guys at this summer, you know, but it's still not where I want it.
Most people are better after hanging out with us. It's
This is true.
we have a natural therapy.
It's that house, man.
Vitamin N and
it's
F.
that house, man. It's that
The Babe Cave
house. The Babe Cave.
we Nick rented this Airbnb last minute for ITF, and the only one left was this place. It was very themed towards, I would say, like a ladies' vacation weekend, and it had this big neon sign that said the Babe Cave. It was something, but we enjoyed the Babe Cave.
The Babe Cave.
Shall we, Nick? How would you feel about firing rapid questions?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Great. All right, Oscar. I think you know the drill.
Uh-oh.
It was funny when I carpooled with Oscar back from ITF because we were both going to Texas, and so I realized with Megan Boutin and him we could ride together, and so I was in the back seat the whole time, and he kept being like, I feel like I'm listening to the podcast, but like you're in the car.
You're in the back.
Okay.
Voices.
Oscar Diaz, advice to your 18-year-old self.
Oh, man. Don't take everything so personally. Don't take everything so personally. There's a lot of people that want to help you, and choose your friends wisely.
Ooh, sounds like there's a story there.
Well, it's not just that. It's just choose people that you're going to be around wisely. You've heard this before. Iron sharpens iron. But not only that, you just want to be comfortable around people. I don't like to walk around eggshells around people. It's an ugly feeling, and that's the main thing. Is just one thing. Don't take everything personally, and take time to barbecue a brisket or smell some roses or go to an amusement park, spend time with your family. Because the one thing in life you cannot get back is time. That is the one thing you cannot get back is time.
The president is coming over for dinner. What are you cooking?
Oh, brisket.
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 You got plan. How many hours you cooking that?
It depends on the size and it depends on the grade. So if the president's coming, it's not going to be a Wagyu because I actually don't really like Wagyu briskets. It's like eating a really rich cheesecake. You can have one or two bites and that's it.
Right.
It's delicious. You know what I mean? But
brisket's already fatty enough, You
so
don't need
a good prime brisket would be awesome, And then my wife makes this awesome potato stuff. I just call it potato stuff. And with my mom's rice and my wife's beans. Boom.
Awesome. There's a billboard that everyone in the world can see, and you can write anything on it. What would you write?
Give a shit.
I love it. Gas.
Gas.
You're so good at these abbreviations. By the way, your 3 C's of giving feedback, I use with my studio, and it's been fantastic this year. They've really taken it.
Can you enlighten me?
You mind quickly saying that?
It was a critique. It's in the commentary. It's critique. God, I can't remember. You put me on the spot.
Would you like me to explain your abbreviation?
Please do it again, because I'm sitting there thinking like.
I keep having to remember. Yeah. So it's the 3 C's. It's criticize. No, it's compliment.
It's compliment, yeah.
Criticize, but be careful.
There it is. That's right. Critique and
say
be
it
careful.
in a respectful way.
Yeah.
I love that. And that actually works really well. Speaking of which, what is the best compliment you can give yourself?
That's a hard one because I don't like to do that.
I know. That's why I asked.
It's a hard one. I'd have to say, if you can kind of come out of the fire and healed from whatever happens, then that's a win. And that's just kind of metaphorical in a way. And it can have a lot of life things, because life's going to push you down. It's just like that whole Rocky thing. So I love Rocky, it's going to beat you up. If you can come out, right, that's a win, and I tell the students that too. That's a hard one. I don't know. It's just, I feed on when people say I can't do something. And they really mean it. Not just to get a rise out of me, because I can read that, but it's just coming out from adversity. It's just as cliche as it sounds. It's a self thing. Are you going, like the studio? I told them we had a really bad semester, everybody. And it was something that we really couldn't help. We need to have a great concert because of this. And our concert's in 2 weeks, and that's, if we can rise from this, then we can do anything, we can get, and that's just life. You can rise from something really bad. And I think I haven't had anything super crazy happen in my life that has drawn me to that. But, I think doing that and helping students not go through the failures that we have gone is a win, I gave you like 80 answers, but
earned confidence. Yeah. Do you own a winter coat?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
But ask me when I bought it.
like 20 years ago at Burlington Coat Factory.
I bought it in the year 2000 when I lived in Colorado, and that's the one that I wear still.
And it looks like in perfect condition.
It's beautiful.
You like never use it.
I use it every shoot. No, you know what? I only use it when it's like stupid windy cold, which happens. It does actually. Sometimes the wind is ugly here, but it ain't like up there. I know.
Yeah. So when it's like 48 degrees.
Well, do you know the coldest I've ever felt? Now, I've never been up north, but the coldest I ever went was in Amarillo, Texas. It was -1, and it hurt to be outside. That I've never felt that in my entire life, and it was in Texas. I remember I was playing with a quartet, pins and needles.
What are the moments as a teacher? What are the most fulfilling moments that just bring you joy?
When they meet their goals. Oh man, it's like when they get their first job as a teacher. I'm excited to teach. I love the spark, and I want to tell them, well, be ready. It's like, yes, I love that gusto, but be ready. And one of my band directors told me this. He told me, you're going to be a teacher. Your students will always disappoint you. And I was like, screw you.
Whoa.
But then as I got older, I understood what that meant. I understood that in some point, even the most perfect, your best student in the world, there's always going to be a point where they do something disappointing. It's what he meant. Like and when I was 17, I was like, man, what's wrong with you? But now I'm older. I'm like, okay, I get the comment now. But I don't say that. I make sure. But that's when they achieve their goals and when they just improve and they become adults, like contributing adults to society, changing lives. I always tell them when they graduate, go change lives. Go change lives in whatever aspect that you feel, be positive and change lives somehow.
I love that. How do you define success?
I don't know, man. Those are deep, man. I need like,
hey, you're on the trombone treat, brother.
I need like drinks.
It's the longest conversation we've had without eating or drinking.
I know. It's like, dang. Well, I don't know. Success can be, because to me, I like, one of my mentors told me this: if you focus on your students, your job will take care of itself. And I took that to heart. And so to me, success is, like I said before, it's very student oriented. It's not about, this past 3 years is the first time that I really started saying yes to doing master classes and leaving, because I didn't want to leave. I did, but I wanted to take care of the students and to do this and to do that. And leaving my family, I don't like to leave them for a long time. I hate that. I can't do that. I do it, but I didn't like it. I was in Florida for a week and about a little over a week roughly, and doing a residency, and I didn't, it was great. I had a great time, but I don't like leaving. I just don't like doing that. But that's the way I see it. To be successful is having, making, you're not going to get to all the students because some are not going to make it, but if you have the majority of your students achieve those goals, and I try to say, be better than me. Be better than me. Because we talked about my little word, like fail, first attempts in learning. It's okay to fail.
Man, you have so many abbreviations. Man.
Yeah, I read a lot too. Some of them are mine and some are not. So I don't know where they come from, but this sticks in my head.
Oscarisms. So Nick's mic, as normal, is acting like crazy. And so I'll ask Nick's last question. Well, there's going to be a couple questions Nick was going to ask. We haven't talked a lot about trombone choir, but who's your favorite trombone choir composer, and why is it Owazen?
I do like some Owazen stuff. A little long, but I like some.
Just wondering why you love it. Is there a favorite? Just a single? Do you have a favorite piece?
Yeah, but it's not. It's not really a trombone choir piece. Like it's. I love, one of my students arranged Luxor Rumque by Eric Whitaker for trombone choir. It is beautiful, man. And then Morton Lauridsen has the O Magnum Mysterium for trombone choir.
Oh yeah, We've been doing that in Duquesne.
I love that. It's beautiful. It works. Anything choral just works for trombone choir. You know, I always play a lyrical piece. You know, I always do. For this concert, we're doing Hymn to Axiom by Vienna Tang. Check it out. She basically sings and she has a keyboard, and the keyboard harmonizes her vocals. It's beautiful. Yeah. And so it's a really nice arrangement of that. I mean, it's really awesome. Anyway, I love choral works.
Yeah. What is something that students, you perceive students could do a lot more of that they don't do enough of?
Listen. I don't think they listen enough. You know, I have a student, I want to be a college professor in trombone. I'm like, no, you don't. Let me tell you why. You know, and how much music do you listen to? Well, I listen to this. They have to listen. You need to listen, and not just listen to trombone players. Listen to everybody. One of my favorite pieces of music is the Barber Violin Concerto. I love that. I love the oboe solo in the second movement. I play it for all the freshmen. Listen to this. That's music, you know? And just things like that. Listen. Everything. Listen to everything. Even country. Old country. Just listen to everything. It's my thing.
I was hanging out in a beer hall in Seattle with Ethan, your student, and like a Tejano song came on.
Yeah,
like
baby.
A song that he listened to like at your barbecues all the time.
We jam
He's
out.
like, why is that being played here? That's amazing. And he had just been talking about it. It was like,
And
he was so excited.
And he probably ordered more drinks because it's like, all right, there we go. You know,
Oscar, you are my hero. You are a good man, and you've touched so many lives and continue to do so. And I'm excited that just getting to know you a little bit this past year, and it's meant a lot to me. And I'm just really excited to see the lives you continue to touch. And thanks so much for coming on here and sharing some of your stories and your wisdom.
anytime, man. This was fun. I wish we could hang out in person very soon. All of us.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah. Do a podcast here for a trombone day someday.
We'll do it.
That'd be fun. You know,
We'll do it. The technology exists for airplanes to get there.
This is true. No, it's been awesome. I appreciate you all having me and taking the time and stuff. So
Absolutely, man.
It's fun to talk about what I love.
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
What a concept.
I get you.
Since Nick's mic is terrible, he should just like mouth something, and we could do Mad Libs, and I could like
It's
pretend
like
I understand what he's saying.
The old, was it Kung Fu videos?
Magic. Oh, I can't say that, Nick. I'm trying not to put a parental advisory on this episode.
Poof. Uh-oh.
Were you saying I want to vacuum? Is that what you're saying?
Nope.
All right, Oscar. Well, enjoy your day, and I look forward to hanging out soon, man.
All right, man. You guys too. Take care.
You know what I want to do, Sebastian? I want to hang
Tell
out
me.
with Oscar Diaz.
You should. He's a good guy to hang out with.
Yeah, I've only hung out with him a little bit in person. Not as much as you, but definitely left me wanting more of Mr. Diaz. Dr. D.
I don't know. He's just watching him work with students was really impressive, especially a trombone choir. He had band director experience before he was a professor, and you just see it, and the way he gets people locked in really quickly. It was really amazing to watch, and I learned a lot. He makes himself available. He's got a big family, and he's got this giant studio, and he somehow manages to be emotionally available for all of his students. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just impressive, and he's one of the good guys.
Yeah, for me, it's like your perspective changes when you actually become a teacher, like a regular teacher where you have a studio. And, when I was a student, I don't think you can understand that until you do it. But, man, it's tough. It's a tough job. It's definitely not for everybody. It takes a lot of organization. It takes a lot of energy. It's, in some ways...
Takes a lot of barbecue.
Yeah, definitely. In some ways, I find it harder to be a teacher than a student. I mean, that sounds kind of ridiculous to say, but, just for someone who's never taught, if you're listening to this, imagine someone comes to you and you're trying to explain something like articulation. Well, they can't see inside your mouth. You can't see inside their mouth. You have to put into words a physical sensation. And and then you use those words to describe to someone, and let's say it clicks and aha, I get it. And then you do it to another student and it doesn't work for them. They don't understand. You have to find another way to say it. I'm just saying this because like you do that and then you multiply that by, what does he have, 40 students or something crazy like that? It's like you have not just the emotional availability, but just the energy to teach these students and be with them an hour a week. It's hard. It's a lot of work.
It's awesome. It's a privilege to be able to do it, but yeah, you can't go in there and because most people you teach. I think John Kitzman told me that once. Like your instincts when you first start teaching is you want to teach how you were taught, and you want to teach how you learn and view the world. So like, oh, this is how you articulate, and you say like, this is how I do it, and you think everyone's just going to understand it the way you do it, and you learn very quickly that everyone's brains are quite different and everyone's life experiences are quite different. Brad Edwards was really cool talking about that and how he just tries to do it based off getting the same sound concept in their mind and helping them to try to agree on that and them kind of figuring out how to get there with his guidance. That's a really good episode, by the way, if you guys haven't heard it yet. Yeah, well, cool. I'm really glad we got him on. It sounds like he's been going through a lot of tough stuff with his studio, and that's what you do. You take the good and the bad.
Yeah,
You take the good, you take the bad, da-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo, the facts of life. Facts of life.
I think about this. Yes, I think about this frequently. You know,
you're just not going to sing with me, huh? Okay,
I'm not going to sing with you, Sebastian.
You are not picking up what I'm putting down.
I am not smelling what you have stepped in.
What? Oh.
I think about this a lot as a teacher, I suppose. One I think about frequently is my teacher, Tom Riccobono, up in Interlochen. I can't remember if he minored in psychology or had a lot of psychology classes, but he had some background in psychology. And I didn't know that at the time. I found out afterwards from my parents. He told them, I think, in a parent-teacher conference. And, you know, a lot of the way that he taught me, I look back at it and I'm like, he wasn't teaching me like anyone else. He was teaching me very tailored to me in the way that I needed to be taught. And a lot of the lessons that he taught me were lessons I specifically needed to learn. Not just about the trombone, but about discipline, about organization. That was a big problem for me at that point in time. It's still something I struggle with, but
is it?
But it is better. It gets better all the time, even if other people can't see it. Shout out to my lovely wife. She probably can't see it. But
I think me and Daniela should start a support group.
It's not going to help.
Dealing with Nick on a daily basis.
But I remember after parent-teacher conferences, I like to tell this story. I went into a lesson and I walk in the door, like right when my foot enters the studio. I was like, "Oh, hi, Mr. Riccobono." And he goes, Hi, Nicholas. And he always called me Nicholas, even though I asked him to call me Nick. "Hi, Nicholas. I want you to tell me how orchestra went today. And I want you to pull out your Rochu book. And I also want you to pull out Arbin's 12 and have that all on the stand." And so I was talking, and then I would stop talking and pull out the Rochu book. And he's, "Nope, keep talking." And then I would alternate back and forth between tasks. And it turns out that in parent-teacher conferences, my parents revealed to him that I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a child. And, you know, nothing wrong with that, not stigmatizing it or anything, but he wanted me to work on multitasking and being able to kind of balance multiple things at once in my head, because that's what you have to do as a trombonist. And it's like, okay, yeah, I have ADHD, but like while you're playing, if you hyper-focus on one thing, a huge like intonation or time can slip through the cracks because you're focusing on sound or something, you know. While he didn't come out and say it, that was a huge lesson for me, you know.
I would not say multitasking is one of your superpowers.
No, it's not. Try. It's not, but you know, it's something I am cognizant of. And it started kind of at that moment. That was kind of a big aha moment for me. I didn't realize how bad I was at it until it was like a mirror was held up to me.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, Sebastian, what have you been up to, my buddy?
I mean, you know, Christmas concert every night. You wake up in the morning, you look at your calendar, you see what you're doing. You're bringing holiday joy to the masses. It's a gift. I'm grateful. I'm a little tired. My chops feel good. Feel strong. Strong like bull.
Strong like bull.
Gainfully employed. You know, we do all the gigs in December so we can save up the money for the no gigs in January.
The gig desert. A year ago, pretty much a year ago now, you revealed to our audience what is your favorite thing to do during holiday concerts. Can you walk us through that again?
Yeah, well, I mean, go listen to that Christmas episode. I don't remember which episode it is. It came out around Christmas last year, but yeah, you just wait for the most over the top sensitive moment in the concert where it's really cheesy and nostalgic. It's like Silent Night or something. There's a bunch in this Pittsburgh Symphony concert I'm doing this month, and you just lean over, and it's really nice when you can get really close. Like I was really getting close to Jeff D's ear, where you can just whisper it and you say their full name. Merry Christmas, Jeffrey.
See, I think that would be better
my contact
if you did a Jeffrey. If you popped out a Jeffrey.
Yeah, long full name. That's what Riccobono was doing to you. He's just you gotta get full attention. I would say I'm at like a 100% success rate currently on this run, and I got Mark Houghton from a distance.
Oh, sniper,
which is double points when you just mouth it. It's worth trying. Please, like, if anyone wants to like secretly record your wins, your hits of getting someone like this, please send it to us. We'll post it. It's really worthwhile.
See, I have taken this idea that, you know, popping out of Merry Christmas, hitting someone with a Happy Hanukkah, you know, I've taken it to a 4-season approach. And what I do is if I'm playing anything that has sleigh bells in it or sounds remotely festive, and I'm doing it in May, doesn't matter. I like to get someone, especially if they're reading or wearing earplugs, and like tap them like I have something important to say, and sleigh bells are going on back in the percussion section. And I'll be like, hey, Weston, Merry Christmas. Hit him with that. And he'll be like, ugh, leave me alone.
You make it seem like it's really important. Do.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. We're doing one, it's like they're trying to check all the boxes. We're doing one Hanukkah song on the holiday show, which there's got to be more than one good one. I mean, the one we're doing is probably the best one on the entire program, and it has this giant trombone solo. Apparently, a bunch of orchestras are doing it this year, and it's this huge, like 3-minute long trombone cadenza.
Ooh,
and it's awesome. Pete Sullivan sounds absolutely beautiful on it. But yeah, there should be more. I mean,
are you doing the dreidel one?
No, it's a new
Hanukkah,
piece.
Oh, Hanukkah, come light the menorah.
Keep going.
I don't know the rest of the words.
Give honor to your last name.
Yeah, you know, when I was in school, we used to play a holiday concert in the lobby, and it was a very exciting day. Not just because we got to play all of this holiday music, but
wait, where was that?
Is that the Juilliard School of Magic and Wizardry and Vacuum Repair?
Wait, you went to Juilliard? The
Juilliard School. It's like the Ohio State, you know.
Oh, I know Juilliard, but I don't know the Juilliard School. Is that
it's affiliated
better one?
It's like the University of Phoenix online. But we played this holiday concert, and it was exciting for not seemingly related reason. There was a big faculty like end of semester meeting, and when they came out of that meeting, which was in Paul Hall, which is right at the back of the lobby, they'd come out, and then we would start this holiday music, you know, play 20 minutes of holiday music or whatever it was. But because we performed this service, we were invited to the faculty party, which would be like, they'd have like
lots of drugs, and
it was an open bar, which was a bad idea to invite trombone players to. And it was like prime rib and like shrimp cocktail, like really good food.
Wishing dollars at work.
Oh yeah. So we would, you know, starve ourselves all day and then just go like buck wild. But we played one Hanukkah medley, and it ends with the oh Hanukkah, and then there's like a little just play out then, like that. And when it got bam, we would go oi. That's what we were all supposed to do. And
it's in the music.
No, it was decided to do that We were saying, okay, at the end, say oi. And I went and saw it a couple years ago, and they played the same medley. But now they go, did it. Happy holidays. And I was so ready to get hit with that oi because I did it for 4 years. And then the happy holidays, I lost it. I was laughing my ass off.
Maybe not as rhythmical, but I guess you can make it work.
And you had to throw your arms up too, like,
Honestly, some of my happiest memories during the holidays, and I want to do this with you again, is you and me and usually a small group of like Lincoln Center trombones and friends from New York would just, a bunch of trombone players get together, grab Santa hats, get the, what are the quintets we'd play?
I remind you this every time. The Pedersen.
The Pedersen. The Pedersen trombone quintets, if you've never played those, they're super fun. And we just post up like, usually you need permits, but we just did it like one day. So we posted up in the subway or like in a major shopping area and just played for like an hour and put out a hat. And we'd usually make a lot of money in a short amount of time. I think one time we made like $200-$300 in like half an hour. And we just like went to the bar and threw the money on the table and had a really good time hanging out with friends. And we just, the best part of it was just, you forget sometimes, you're playing all these concerts and we don't always get to interact with the audience. And like we're saying, they get redundant at times, but the interaction you get playing on the street and the literal smiles and eye contact you're making, like I still remember this lady walked up. She's like, you guys just totally made my day, and just throws a 20 down in there. Like that's the stuff that's like awesome, and we need to figure out a way to do this.
Yeah. You remember we did it at the Buddha Bar one year. Were you part of that? Yeah.
The Buddha Bar.
We did there at like 11 p.m. for a bunch of people drinking beer. It was awesome. Yeah.
People drinking tend to be good audiences.
They do. That's why we have a bar inside of the recitals at the Trombone Retreat.
Oh, Trombone Retreat happening June 19th through the 25th at tromboneretreat.com.
Hey, Sebastian.
God, that was smooth. Man.
Sweet plug.
I'm a professional podcaster. Professional.
Yep.
Speaking of which, if you enjoyed the podcast, tell a friend and subscribe everywhere you download your podcast. Also, please consider being a patron on patreon.com/tromboneretreat and also leaving us a rating and review on iTunes and Spotify. It helps us out a ton. A special thank you to Houghton Horns at houghtonhorns.com for being our season sponsor. Follow us at Trombone Retreat on all the social medias and our website, tromboneretreat.com, where you can also join our mailing list. On Instagram, follow Nick Schwartz at basstrombone444 and myself at js.vera. And as always,
if you get a boo-boo on your bum from falling down ice skating,
write a letter to Santa.
Address it North Pole, Alaska, care of Santa Claus.
And put the return address as boo-boo butt.
Have your mom brew you up a nice cup of cocoa.
And maybe drop just a little bit of whiskey in there. Not enough where she'd get in trouble, but just like a little bit so you get a little taste of what your future is going to be like.
And go ahead and retreat yourself.
Merry holidays. Happy holidays.
Oi!